Hey guys, GamingSmoke here, back again for another Marvel Battle Lines video, and I'm going to be doing a little deck building guide for you guys. I know some of you have been requesting this for a little while, but I thought now would be a great time because there have been actually some new changes added to the game, one of them being team synergy. But before I jump into that, I do want to talk about something you definitely should not do. This is a little shout out to all you new players. You should not say, let's arrange all the cards here by highest attack and then drop in all of your high attack cards. The reason why you shouldn't do this is because, fair enough, you do have all of your high attack cards, but if you notice, they all pretty much have 3 cost or higher. The reason why you do not want to do this is because even though you may have all these high attack cards, you're not actually going to be able to use them. Fair enough, you will have 3 0 cost cards which are compulsory to have in your deck, but you will not be able to get 3 cosmic fragments every turn to be able to play all of these OP cards. So that is definitely something you should not do when you start building your deck. But something you should do when you are choosing the cards for your deck, it's always good to choose cards that have some type of ability. And by that I mean, when you are choosing your 0 cost cards, it's always great to choose ones that actually do something either on summon, when knocked out, or after, say, a battle line. Here you actually can see what abilities are available in the game. So let's clear all that. And as I said, I like to choose ones that actually do attack. So the ones I like to choose are attack on summon as opposed to attack on, say, form in a battle line. The higher amount of damage the card does, the better it will be. Let's change this to character. The better it will be. But say this rocket, he does 230 damage after forming a battle line and only to distant enemies. For me, that's not necessarily the best ability because 1, you got to form the battle line, and 2, it's distant enemies only. So that is not the greatest. The epic rocket is actually alright because he will do damage to 2 enemies, I believe, if your HP is lower than the opponent. So that is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I do not have that rocket, but these are the cards I generally like to choose. These Wakandan cards work very well together because they will have the team synergy buff. Every time you put a card on the board from the same team, they are going to get a 10% buff. That doesn't apply if there's only 1 card from the team. So that will not work if, say, I only have Manape on the board, he will not get a 10% buff. But when I drop Ulysses Claw, he will get 10% buff. Ulysses will get 10% as well. When I drop Okoye, she will get 10%, Ulysses Claw will get another 10%, and Manape will get another 10%. So that is how the team synergy actually works. And again, I'll go into that a bit more detail later on in the video. So another thing you want to do when you are forming your deck, it's always great to have either 3, preferably 4 action cards. The reason why 4 is good is because that is pretty much the sweet spot. You can go more than that, but depending on what type of deck you want to build, it isn't always necessary. It doesn't really matter what type of action card you use. Generally, I like to choose action cards that have the ability to attack multiple enemies. So either Baron Strike, Smart Missile, or the 2 cost rare version of Baron Strike, Joint Aerial Strike. So this is actually pretty good. Very good in Blitz, by the way. We've also got something like Chain Lightning that works very well. But yeah, you definitely choose either 3 or 4. As I said, preferably 4 action cards. They work very well. This is pretty good as well. Pumpkin Bomb Delivery. This was one of the cards that came out in the game right at the start. I think last year when they had the special event. It's easy to get this card. You got it for free, basically. I think that's why mine is level 2. So that was definitely a very good card. Also here we got USDP, another good card. But the problem is, it's not always a good idea to choose cards that have more than 2 costs. You preferably want to focus on using cards with 0 or 1 cost where possible. But again, this is a 0 cost card, another very good card, but you have to take into consideration it does use your cosmic fragments. So it does, my one currently does 666 damage at level 3, but it will multiply that based on the number of cosmic fragments I currently have in hand. So that is kind of like a last resort sometimes. If you feel you are going to lose, drop that down, get what you paid for. Also got Photon Strike and Yaka Arrows. Substitute for Yaka Arrows would be Sharpshooter Arrow, and also Target Locked, another very good card here. You can also use Guide to the Afterlife, same thing at 2 costs pretty much, but Target Locked is actually the better card as it does more damage. And also Common Enemy works very well at higher levels of challenge mode. So yeah, focus on using 3, preferably 4 action cards. You can go more than 4, but again, it depends on what deck you want to build. And like I said, it's always a good idea to not always focus on action cards that only attack one enemy, because sometimes you can be caught out with that, such as cards such as Sentry. Sentry cannot be targeted by any single target action cards, and that is where Baron Strike or Smart Aerial Strike or Smart Missile come in handy, because they will target 2 random enemies on the board, and one of them can actually be Sentry, so that will work in your favor. And it's always a good idea when you are creating your decks to create multiple decks based on what you need the deck for. So I generally have challenge mode decks, horde mode decks, event mode decks such as the Baron Mordo event, Mysterio event, arena, and challenge mode as well, depending on what I want to do. But yeah, don't feel shy to do that. It's always much easier when you have your decks already created, and it just makes things that much easier for you. So first things first, let's jump into this first deck I wanted to talk about. So this is my main go-to challenge deck. You may have seen it being used in one of my older videos focusing on challenge mode. So as you can see, I've got Hellstorm and Nebula both level 4. I've got Black Widow level 5, Baron Strucker, Hydra Squad Leader, Dark Elf Leader all level 5, Regenerative Spores level 4, Stunning Visual Effects level 5, TOV level 4, Photon Strike, Baron Strike, Yaka Arrow. So how I actually like to use this deck, I like to either drop one of my 0 cost cards down, it doesn't really matter where, which corner of the board. Then this is if everything goes to plan, then I would use Regenerative Spore on one of them, heal them up, drop Stunning Visual Effects in the middle, and then drop Black Widow on the other side. Depending on how much HP your opponent leader has, you can either do Nebula or Hellstorm, but remember, Nebula only works with a diagonal battle line, Hellstorm only works with a horizontal battle line. And if you guys do not know, these 2 cards actually attack twice, and they always attack twice. So that is why it's very easy to win with these 2 cards. So if you're lucky, they're going to drop their card in the middle on Stunning Visual Effects. It will take them out. Depending on which card they do or drop, it may not take them out, because my Stunning Visual Effects at level 5 does 584 to 730 damage. So that is where Techno-Organic Virus comes in handy, because most of the time you will only have 2 frags. So this 0 cost card will be able to take out the enemy that wasn't taken out by Stunning Visual Effects. And then you can drop Hellstorm, or you can drop Nebula. The reason why I'm using Venom as the leader, it doesn't matter if you use this new Venom, Secret Wars, or the old Venom, they both do the same thing, as this is just a costume variant. The reason why Venom is the leader is because on every turn, he will reduce your own HP, but what he does do is actually add 100 attack to each card you drop on the board. So basically, he's going to make Hellstorm's attack 752, Nebula's attack 632, Black Widow's attack 728. And again, with Nebula and Hellstorm doubling their attack, you're literally going to one-shot the enemy. I think Hellstorm with Black Widow on one of the 0 cost cards, he's going to be doing 2,600 and something damage, and Nebula will do, I think, 2,399 if I remember correctly. So that will always be able to take out the enemy. Generally, with this team in challenge mode, you can actually win from either 3 or 4 turns if you're lucky. Sometimes the AI can be pretty annoying, and this can take a bit longer than what you would like, but most of the time, like I said, 3 or 4 turns. Okay, let's have a look at another deck. So I want to talk about Horde Mode. So this is basically my go-to Horde Mode deck currently. Unfortunately, I don't have Hulk M or Hulk G. So for you guys who don't know, that's Maestro and Gladiator. But I have been able to get through to wave 70 and actually finish wave 70 with this deck multiple times now. So this is definitely the deck I'm using. So it's always good to use cards that do damage on summon, preferably the higher amount of damage the better. Death is very good. Even though mine is level 1, she is very good, because what she will do when you put her down on the board, she'll make 2 nearby enemies start recharging, and if their HP falls below 150 or 150 or less, she will actually remove them from the board. So that's basically taking out any card that has HP that is 300, or less, she's going to literally vanish them from the board. Very good card. Falcon, what he does, he will actually remove any enemy, single enemy that is, on the board that has HP lower than 532. So that's very good for those single enemies on the board. And also when you're on the boss stages, after you've taken out the first wave of enemies, they're just going to drop one at a time. So he comes in very handy when you just want to remove that one card. But this is the MVP of the deck. Rescue, it took me so long to get her, but when they actually did, I bought her from the shop. Definitely got her to level 4 straight away using particles. She will deal 279 damage to all distant enemies. So you got to bear in mind that this is 1 cost or less. Yes, it's very good for Horde mode. She unfortunately is not necessarily the best Avengers card to put in the Avengers deck for any other mode. The reason why is because she only focuses on cards with 1 cost or less. That is not bad because 1 cost or less is what you're only going to face in Horde mode, so that she's definitely been built specifically with Horde mode in mind. Lady Bullseye, level 5, does 219 damage. Man Ape level 4, 200 damage. And my Okoye unfortunately is only level 3, but she does 194 damage. So again, very good. I used to have Rocket Raccoon instead of Iron Man, but unfortunately since the nerf, they basically made Rocket only attack 2 enemies and not 3, so he has become pretty bad, although they did buff the amount of damage he does as a minimum, I believe, to 234. So I decided to swap him with Iron Man. Iron Man does a base of 220 to 242. So that can work very well. It's also very important to bring at least 4 action cards, one of them being Techno-Organic Virus, a 0 cost card. You've got Baron Strike here, very good card to have at 1 cost. If you don't have Baron Strike, you can use Joint Aerial Strike or Smart Missile. Those are 2 cost cards, but it's better to use the 1 cost Baron Strike if you have it. EMP Explosive, another 0 cost card, very good to use. The higher the level your cards are, the better. And this again is another MVP card to use. I like to save this until the last stage, so wave 70, and get rid of all of the cards that way. So remember, with Horde, action cards are replaced every 5 turns, and every 10 turns you are healed from, I believe, wave 30. Actually no, every 10 turns. So I generally only start healing from wave 30 onwards. Wave 30 will be 400 HP, then wave 40 will be 555, wave 50 500 HP, and then wave 60 500 HP. So when you are taking that HP regeneration into consideration, you have to be wary of using Black Panther, because he will deal damage, 80 damage to all enemies on the board if your HP is 1000 or lower. So remember, even though it says lower than 1000, it does actually work if it's 1000 or lower. So you need to bear that in mind when you are trying to keep your HP low, and also take into consideration how much HP you're going to be healed by every 10th turn. So let's move on to the Avengers deck. So you've probably seen many Avengers decks being used in Arena, Challenge, for example. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what type of Avengers decks you use. You got to work with what you've got, but this is the deck I'm currently using in regards to Avengers. As you can see, I've got Hulkbuster, level 3. Unfortunately, it would be better if it was level 4, but this is what I've got to work with. I've got Captain America, level 5, does 307 damage. Forgot to say, with Hulkbuster, they did change his ability slightly. Originally, he would make the enemy with the highest attack start recharging, but now it's a nearby enemy. So just bear that in mind when you're dropping them down. Iron Man deals damage to 3 enemies on the board. Very good card here. Hawkeye deals 242 damage to the enemy with the highest attack, and then again to the enemy with the highest HP. So he is basically Baron Strike in a card version. Black Widow here, very good card again. So she will deal 400 damage to an enemy with the lowest HP, and she'll switch 1 enemy card. Very good card. Man Ape, Grid, and Black Cat, and then I got 4 action cards. It doesn't really matter which action cards you use. Again, you got to work with what you got. I'm using Iron Man as the leader because if you didn't know, Iron Man will increase your 2 random cosmic fragment mounts on the board by 1 once you get to 4 frags. So if you are very lucky, you can actually get to 4 frags in the 2nd turn. How you do that? First turn, drop Black Cat. On your second turn, drop grid on the furthest most point away from Black Cat, preferably close to another cosmic fragment. So you drop grid on the cosmic fragment close to another cosmic fragment. He will then bring Black Cat closer to him, and she will pick up the cosmic fragment nearest the grid. There you have it, 4 frags already on your second turn. So when you are at 4 frags, you want to remain at 4 frags by dropping your 2 cost cards down on 2 frag mounds. Keep doing that constantly and you always have 4 frags or more, and that is how you maintain the tempo. And when you're close to clinching that win, you want to drop down Hulkbuster. The more cards you're dropping down here with the Avengers tag, they are going to be getting that 10% buff for each card you drop down. And as you can see, some of them have very good attack stats anyway, such as the Hawkeye and Hulkbuster. So that is going to make their attack stat very high very quickly. If you don't happen to have any of these cards, you can actually substitute them quite easily. If you don't have Hulkbuster, you could potentially swap him with Captain Marvel, or a card that has very good attack stat. Another one could be this Captain Marvel MAE, so Marvel's Avengers Endgame, because what she does on every turn increases attack and HP of all nearby allies and self by 20%. So that is pretty OP, and she is definitely a card that is going to be drawing the opponent's action cards straight away, because they don't want to have her on the board, because she is a grower and she also increases her all nearby enemies allies attack stat as well. So she is pretty formidable. Another card you could potentially use, so let's say you want to include someone else. Let's see, get all of this, let's do turn. So you may be thinking, why would I put Malekith in the deck? Again, Malekith is a card that is going to be drawing the opponent's action cards. He is someone you don't want to leave on the board, because my one is at level 4. As you can see, he's going to be doing 359 to 412 damage to a random enemy on the board every turn. So again, the enemy is not going to want to have someone like that just running amok on the board. So he is someone you could actually put in. You could also put in this Thor. So this Thor, when damaged and not knocked out, deal 330 damage to 2 enemies. So again, the enemies could be very close or very distant, doesn't matter. So you're probably thinking, what is so good about him? He's only going to work when he receives damage. True, but the damage doesn't actually have to be dealt to him by the enemy. You can actually deal the damage to him. So you could use something like Scourge. A card like that could actually attack him, set off his ability. You could use the action card Kinetic Energy. Again, that will set off his ability. Or you could actually just move him to take out an enemy, and he will deal damage to 2 other enemies on the board. So he does have pretty good attack and HP stats there. So he's actually going to be doing a nice amount of damage. If you don't happen to have those cards, you may focus on changing your 2 cost cards. So you can put in some cards that are 1 cost, such as this Ant-Man. He does damage to all nearby enemies, so 194 to 230. My Ant-Man at level 3. You could put in this War Machine, very good substitute card. So he will do 231 damage and move an enemy. We've also got the OG War Machine. Currently mine is level 1. He will do 200 to 260 damage with to the enemy with the lowest attack. You could also substitute your 0 cost cards and put in more Avengers cards. So we have quite a number of 0 cost Avengers cards, but the problem with this is that you're going to have some difficulty in getting to 4 frags as quickly as possible. Black Cat is a great way to get to 4 frags, because when you move her, she will actually move and collect some frags for you. I can't see another 0 cost card. Oh yeah, here we are, Tony Stark. Tony Stark is quite interesting. I was gonna say annoying, but interesting for you, but annoying for the opponent, because if they actually leave him alone, if he happens to pick up 2 frags, he can actually transform into Iron Man. I think it's model 25 very quickly, and he has very good stats when he transforms. So if you happen to drop him on the board in between 2 frags on your next turn, if they haven't been disturbed, those frags, he will collect them both at the same time and transform straight away. If you happen to drop him on a frag, it may be a bit longer for him to transform, or take a bit more time. So you can actually get him from the basic vault for free, so that is quite interesting. So those are some cards you can actually choose. As I said, there are some other substitutes. You've got Iron Man Superior. He could work pretty well, but again, he only attacks distant enemies and his HP is not the best, and his attack again is quite low, so you're not really going to be using him to form any battle lines, unfortunately. Rescue, as I said before, she works very good in Horde mode, but not so good in a normal deck because she only attacks 1 cost cards or lower. You're going to find your enemy is not going to be using too many 1 cost or lower cards. They're probably going to be using 2 cost or higher. This Captain Marvel, you could also use her, but unfortunately she works best in a movement deck, which I will get onto very soon. We've also got Hulk. He's another 3 cost card you could use, a good substitute if you haven't got anything better. Good attack stat, good HP stat. Vision, he is okay. The new Vision is a bit better because this Vision, although he has a very good HP and attack stat, he doesn't actually do anything when he moves, whereas the other Vision, the new Vision, will actually deal damage every time he moves. So that is something to bear in mind. Again, this Hulk works in the same way as the Thor from MAE. So the difference is this Hulk will deal 330 damage to all nearby enemies, but Thor will deal damage to 2 random enemies. So that is pretty cool. So again, you can either do damage to Hulk for his ability to set off, or you can actually just move him to take out a card and he's going to do damage to all enemies nearby. So that is pretty much the Avengers deck. As I said, you can literally build the best combination for you, but the reason why this works so well is because you are using Iron Man as your leader, and once you get to 4 frags, you want to maintain 4 frags by keep dropping 2 cost or lower cards, and then you will be able to dictate the game tempo. So let's have a look at another deck. So we're going to move on to a movement deck. So this is a movement deck I've been using currently. So as you can see, I've got Oblivion, Captain Marvel, Shield, Vulture, Speed, Black Widow, Grey Suit, Black Cat, Inferno, and Grid. Again, with action cards, doesn't really matter which action cards you use, except it's always good to have an action card that focuses on multiple enemies, such as Baron Strike and Smart Missiles. So this Oblivion is pretty sick, to be honest. When you drop him down on the board, he will increase his attack and HP for every slot not occupied by a character. So it says empty slot. You're probably thinking, if the slot contains a cosmic fragment, is that considered empty or full? It's actually considered as empty. So any slot that doesn't have a character is considered empty, and he will multiply his stats based on that. So that is a pretty crazy ability there. So not everyone is going to have him, to be honest, but there are other cards you could use in his place. You've also got Captain Marvel Shield, one of the MVPs of the team. Her HP is not the best, and her attack stat is not the best either. That is why Oblivion is there to come in handy and actually seal that win for you with his crazy attack stat. But what this Captain Marvel does is anytime a character moves on the battlefield, she's going to deal 380 damage to the enemy with the lowest attack. So that is pretty sick. If you check out my event portal video when I'm taking on the new Spider-Man event, you can actually see me using her in a movement deck along with the new Spider-Man. This Vulture is very good. On every turn, move to an empty slot. You could actually substitute him with Lockjaw, to be honest, as Lockjaw will move every time a character is summoned on the board. The reason why I prefer this Vulture is because he doesn't really need any special term, or he doesn't really need any special kind of condition, that's the word I'm looking for him to actually move, whereas Lockjaw does. Lockjaw will only move anytime an enemy card is summoned. I believe it's an enemy card. Let me have a quick look. So I believe it's an enemy card. Oops, let's do that. Motion, where is it? So Lockjaw. Yeah, so after a character is summoned from the opponent's hand, move to an empty slot without a cosmic fragment. So yeah. So that is why I prefer the Vulture, because he will just move regardless every turn. The only downside between this Vulture and the Lockjaw is that they will only move to empty slots. If the board is filled with frags, they're not going to be moving at all. So that is not the best, unfortunately, not the best at all. So what is great about this deck as well is that you're using Thor as the leader. Anytime a character moves, he's going to deal 70 to 120 damage to an enemy. Anytime one of your characters move, that is. Speed. Another good card, he moves to a vertical and horizontal play slot, so he can move from one end of the board to the other, and after moving he will deal 330 damage to a nearby enemy. That is quite a nice amount of attack, and considering he's an uncommon card, he's actually going to be getting quite a high attack stat at level 5. This Black Widow added in the vault, very nice. When moving, or when another character moves, she'll do 286 damage to a distant enemy at level 2, so that is very good attack stat there. Black Cat, again, you know Black Cat, when she moves she picks up a frag, again a movement card. Inferno, basically the same as Black Widow. After moving, after another character moves, deal 170 damage to a distant enemy, so 0 cost card there. Inhuman card as well, and another Inhuman card here, Grid, so he will bring a distant enemy right to you. So again, all these cards focus on movement, with Thor being the deck leader. Anytime one of your allies move, he's going to be dealing damage to an enemy. So that can actually chain. So if cards are multiply moving across the board, they are going to be doing a crazy amount of damage. So you're probably thinking, I don't have all these OP cards. That is fine, you do not need all of these cards. But as I said, Oblivion is really good because he is going to be sealing that win for you because of his attack stat. But you cannot use other cards. So let's see. Every turn, let's have a look. So if you don't happen to have Oblivion, you could substitute Oblivion with, where is she? Oh, I cannot see her at all. Let's clear this. I am looking for Satana. So Satana could actually be a substitute for Oblivion, because what she does after moving and after another character moves adds 242 attack and 194 HP to self. So that in itself is pretty OP. And if I went to card upgrade, as you can see at level 4, she will add 266 attack and 213 HP every time character moves. So that is going to get very high very quickly. So she is definitely a good substitute. So let's go back to motion. So if you don't happen to have her, you could put some other cards in here. So you could put in this Captain Marvel. I'm pretty sure many players have this Captain Marvel. So after moving, double current attack. So she could actually work very well with Grid. If you drop her in a corner, drop Grid on opposite corner, he is going to move her and she will double her attack stat. So the higher level she is, the better she will perform. If you don't have Captain Marvel, that's fine. This Gamora could work pretty well. After moving and attack a nearby enemy, this can actually chain if she's able to knock out the enemy. Another card that you could substitute her with would be, where is he? He is not here. I'm looking for this guy here, Hulkling. So you could substitute her with him. So Hulkling, on every turn, move in and attack a nearby enemy with the highest attack. So he works best the higher his level is. As you can see, his attack and HP stat are quite low, with his HP being okay, average, but the problem is he's not going to be able to knocking out enemies left, right and center. So the first time I used him at level 1, he actually knocked himself out, which was quite funny, so I wasn't able to use him to his fullest ability, but he is another substitute. You could actually substitute this Vulture with the Epic 1 cost Vulture, as he will work that much better. Let me just show you him quickly. So the Epic Vulture, on every turn, he'll move to an empty slot. When the Vulture moves to a slot with a Cosmic Fragment, he will use that Cosmic Fragment to deal 110 times damage equal to the number of Cosmic Fragments on the slot. So that is pretty damn crazy. So he is basically a better version, or will I say epic version, of this character here. Get rid of that. So again, this one is kind of hindered by Cosmic Fragments, whereas the Epic one is not. If you do not have him, again, use the uncommon one. If you haven't got the uncommon one, you can use other motion cards. So let's have a look at what else you could use. You could use Radioactive Man. After moving, deal 240 damage to all nearby enemies. So you could actually swap him with speed. He will work pretty well. If you don't happen to have this Black Cat, you could put in Killmonger. Killmonger, what he does, When a character moves on the battlefield, deal 327 damage to a nearby enemy with the highest attack. A very good card there to use, so you could actually keep moving cards around and he's going to be doing crazy amount of damage. This War Machine, he will deal 231 damage to a distant enemy and actually move them to a slot without frags. So again, he's forcing the card to move and he's actually going to be doing damage for you. So that is actually very good. We've also got this Grey Gargoyle. He is okay, because the reason why I say okay and not very good is because his ability only activates when an enemy character moves. If it was when a character moves, he would be very good for a 1-cost common card, because he will increase his attack and HP stat every time. We got Naja here, so after summoning she will move straight away, so again that will proc your abilities for certain cards such as Captain Marvel's shield suit, the Thor's ability, the leader ability will be going off, Killmonger will be going off, and this Inferno will be going off. So yeah, it will be going crazy. So there are a number of movement cards you could choose. Work with what you got, try and form something good. Also, you could actually use this Rocket Raccoon to proc other cards' abilities. So there are a number of different cards you could actually use to actually get a very good deck going. So let's move on to another deck. So I want to talk about this deck here, the Black Order deck. So you may have seen many people using this deck in Arena. So it works in the same way as the Avengers deck I spoke about before, by utilizing Iron Man as your deck leader. So you want to try and get to 4 frags as quickly as possible and keep dropping your 2-cost cards. And when a 3 fragment mound appears, drop your 3-cost card down. And obviously I'm using Thanos IG. He is my most powerful Black Order card I have. If you don't have him, don't worry, there are substitutes. Same for the Supergiant. If you haven't got Supergiant, you can actually swap her out for something else. I'm using 4 action cards as standard. Again, it doesn't matter which action cards you use, but it's always great to use action cards that focus on targeting multiple enemies. This guy here is one of the most annoying cards in the deck. At level 4, he is very annoying and very difficult to take out because of the team synergy buff. So again, every card is going to be getting a 10% buff every time you drop them on the board, and his HP is going to be like 1500, something crazy, and he's going to be very difficult to take out because he's going to be buffing himself every time he gets attacked. Corvus, basically the Black Order version of Captain America. He does more damage than Captain America at level 3 when he's maxed out. Unfortunately, mine is still level 1. I haven't been able to get another copy, but as you can see, at level 1 he does 280 damage. Also got Death. So Death, as I said before in the Horde deck, she will vanquish any enemies that have HP below 300 because she will reduce it to 150, and if it's 150 or below, she will remove them from the board. Also got this 0-cost Outrider Parasite because he's going to be giving that Black Order team synergy buff. Man 8 because he does a nice amount of damage there to a enemy on the board, 200 damage, and he's a 0-cost card. And Black Cat here to help us get to 4 frags as quickly as possible. So again, when you're at 4 frags, you are able to maintain that tempo by dropping 2-cost cards down all the time. But let's look at some substitutes for the deck. So if you don't happen to have all of these cards, you could swap out Thanos IG for OG Thanos. So OG Thanos, he will deal 380 damage to the highest attack card on the board every turn. So he is very good. I actually wanted this card for a long time and I got him a little while ago, and I actually got him from Horde Mode randomly, so that was very good. So at the moment his attack stat is not the highest, but he does have quite a nice amount of HP there. So with the team synergy buff, he's going to be getting very good buff to his HP, as well as a moderate buff to his attack stat. If you haven't got Supergiant, don't worry, you could put in this other Thanos. So Thanos MAE, after summoning, half the attack and HP of all nearby enemies. If you haven't got him, don't worry, you could put in another card. So Ebony Maw could work. So Ebony Maw will remove the special ability of a nearby enemy with the lowest attack. So you gotta be careful when you put him down. He can actually focus on the enemy you don't want him to focus on. So just be careful and bear that in mind when you are dropping him on the board. If you haven't got Ebony Maw, drop Proxima Midnight. So again, another good card you could potentially use. So she will deal 290 damage to a enemy by thrusting her spear. So again, she's going to be doing a nice amount of damage, and she's going to be given that Black Order team synergy buff. So if you haven't got her, you could actually put down, where is he? I cannot see him. Oh yeah, Outrider Assassin. So Outrider Assassin has very good attack stat at level 5, and he is actually farmable from Spec Ops. So again, he's going to be getting that Black Order team synergy buff, and he's going to be giving that to the other cards on the board, and he is a 1-cost card, so he is going to be quite handy for you to have if you haven't got anything better. So those are some cards you could potentially use. But again, I like to keep saying, work with what you got. If you haven't got all of these cards, don't worry. Try and utilize the cards you do have and try and form a good team that way. So let's move on. So Asgardians. You're probably thinking something doesn't seem right, something doesn't fit. That'll be Malekith. The reason why I got Malekith here is because he is a 2-cost card, but he does damage every turn. Unfortunately, he does not get a Asgardian buff. Why? I have no idea. He is from the Thor series, you could say. If Ulysses Claw can get a Wakanda team synergy buff, why can't Malekith get a Asgardian team synergy buff? Because he is from the Thor story, who happens to have the Asgardian buff. So as you can see, I've got Thor here. My Thor is level 3. He's going to be dealing 387 to 411 damage every turn to enemy with the highest HP. Bear that in mind, highest HP, so be careful with that. Also, Thor Unworthy. Anytime a character is summoned, deal 370 damage to the enemy with the highest attack. So he works very well if you happen to have no enemy cards on the board and you have him down. When they drop their card down, if they happen to have 0 frags, they're going to be dropping 0-cost cards all the time, and he's going to be taking them out straight away. Enchantress, she got the buff. You saw my video, or hopefully you saw my video, where I was showing her off. She became a very good grower. She will entice the enemy to switch a card in their hand, and when she does that, she's going to be increasing her attack and HP stat every turn. Also got Sith. Unfortunately, with the Asgardians, there aren't really many cards that do damage on summoning and to multiple enemies. So AoE cards, you've got Sith and you've got Scourge the Executioner. The reason why I'd prefer Sith over Scourge is because unfortunately Scourge does damage your own cards, which I do not like so much. Unfortunately, Sith does not have very good HP and attack stat. It's I would say below average, mediocre, below average kind of with her stats, but she will be getting that Asgardian team synergy buff. Got Manape, got Okoye, and you're probably thinking, why have I got randomly Rocket Raccoon? The reason why is mainly because of his ability. When knocked out, he will add 130 attack and 132 HP to a nearby ally. So I thought, yeah, give those Asgardians another little buff. I'm using Iron Man as the leader because once again, you want to try and get to 4 frags as quickly as possible. Once you're at 4 frags, you are able to drop your stronger cards. But let's talk about some substitutes. So let's get rid of the Black Order and let's have a look at the Asgardians. So if you don't happen to have this Thor, do not worry. There are some alternatives. You could drop Jane Foster. So Jane Foster, when you or the enemy switch a card, deal 28 to 110 damage to the enemy with the highest HP. So that ability actually activates with Enchantress's ability, because she's going to be switching an enemy opponent card every turn. So that is actually going to activate Thor Jane Foster's ability. So that is very good. If you don't have Malekith, don't worry. Drop Valkyrie. She will actually receive the damage of any action card, but you got to bear in mind, if it's an action card that deals damage to multiple enemies, she will be attacked as well as another card on the board. So if you don't happen to have Thor but you do have Malekith, I would put Malekith there in his place. If you don't have Malekith, it sucks. To be honest, it's definitely good to have a DOT card on the board. If you don't have Enchantress, you could put Angela there, but let's put Thor. Angela, what she does, if you happen to have HP lower than the opponent, she will actually increase her stats by 275. So with the Asgardian buff, she's going to get her stats very high actually. So definitely one to look out for. Don't sleep on Angela. She will work very well in challenge mode because the more games you play, the lower your stats will become. So she will work very well. If you don't happen to have any of these cards, you could actually use Crimson Hawk. So he works in the same way as the Outrider Assassin, a 1-cost card with very good attack stat. So as you can see, at level 4, 625 attack stat, and he will be able to get to level 5 as well, being an uncommon card. So you could actually drop him down in your deck. So you could drop him there. If you don't happen to have him, don't worry. You could use maybe Volstagg. Volstagg, unfortunately, is not the best option. But what he does have a nice little gimmick, because anytime you switch a card, he will gain 22 HP. At level 3, that will be, if I can see, I can't even see what that says. I cannot even read that. But let's just say his HP will increase. So, one other thing I wanted to say, if you don't happen to have Volstagg, you could actually use Hogan. Look at those attack stats and HP stats, 748 attack. At level 3, 823 attack and HP. That is crazy. His ability is quite bad, to be honest, because what he does, he destroys cosmic fragments on the left and right by smashing them. Okay, so you got to drop him in the middle and then stop him from getting a frag. So that is not the best, but his HP and attacks are crazy. So with the Asgardian buff, if you're dropping him late in the game, he's going to be getting a very nice buff. So he is definitely one to consider. And as I said, if you haven't got Sith, or you want to swap out Sith, you could put in Scourge the Executioner, because he will deal 200 damage each to all nearby characters. So again, bear that in mind, take that into consideration, all nearby characters. So he is going to damage your own. At level 2, he will deal 220 damage. Actually, I might as well level him up. 1000 gold. So he's going to be dealing 220 damage. Now, there you go. Quite decent attack stat at 682 there. Average HP. But he, again, let's see, level 3, 242 damage. Okay, but attack stat 750. Okay, so maybe he is a better choice than Sith. But again, just be careful where you drop him down on the board, because you don't really want to have him taking out your enemy, or your cards instead of the enemy. Heimdall is a card that I do not use, to be honest. His ability is so-so. There's a 50% chance that he will pick up a cosmic fragment on a distant square, but that doesn't always work, and he is pretty mediocre to below average stats, especially with the HP. So he's not really one I would choose, to be honest. Fandral, he's okay, but with his ability, he will only increase the attack of allies on the left and the right. If it was nearby allies, it will be so much better. Unfortunately, it's only allies on the left and the right, and that isn't always good. And his cards are not always going to be placed in the way you want them to be for his ability to activate. So again, he's not really a good choice. There is one thing you could do. If you don't happen to have Thor, but you have, let's say Malekith is in that slot, and you have this action card. This action card, it will target an ally with HP below 220. So basically, use this on your 0-cost cards, return that ally to your library, then summon Thor with 770 attack and 770 HP. The higher level this card is, the higher Thor's ability will be when he is summoned. So I believe that is 847. So he will actually summon this Thor right here. So that is a very good substitute if you don't happen to have Thor, or let's say you don't happen to have Malekith. He is a very good substitute. The only problem is this can only be used once, like with all action cards. So be careful if you do decide to use this, because you only get one chance at summoning Thor. So let's move on to the next deck. So I want to talk about this deck right here. So you may have seen this deck at the top of the challenge leaderboard. As you can see, there is something missing. The thing that is missing is the legendary card Vishanti's Omnipotence. What that card actually does is once you get to 6 frags, you can play that card. It does cost 6 fragments, but it will allow you to summon all cards in your hand. So that works very well, because if you notice, I have Nebula on the team. Like I said before, with the challenge deck, she will always attack twice if you form a diagonal battle line. So all of these cards here, apart from the 2 0 cost cards, Karen Page and Black Cat, all have the Guardians tag. So they are all going to be getting the team synergy buff of 10% per card. So if you look at Gamora's attack stat, 770 at level 2. The higher her level, the better she will be. Yondu, he will deal a nice amount of damage there at 336 to an enemy with the highest attack. This Nova comes in clutch. Although the passive here doesn't actually say, he will swap places with a random enemy on the board, no matter where they're placed, when the enemy tries to form a battle line. So they don't actually need to be near Nova for him to swap places with them. So that is very good, but it's only once per summon, so they probably want to take him out as quickly as possible, but you will be able to use him once again. So Rocket Raccoon, when he's knocked out, he will give an attack and HP buff to nearby allies. So when you have most of your cards on the board, what you want to do when you get to 6 frags, you want to drop Vishanti's Omnipotence. Then you want to play your 0 cost card. It's very, very, very important that you have a 0 cost card in your hand before you play Vishanti's Omnipotence. Because if you play Vishanti's Omnipotence and you have no 0 cost cards in your hand, you can't do anything. Because the max frags you can have is 6. The card costs 6 frags. So then when you use the card, you have 0 frags. So you can only play a 0 cost card. You would then want to play a 0 cost card on a frag mound with at least 1 or more frags, preferably 2. You can then play either your 1 cost card or your 2 cost card, depending on how many frags you've picked up. One of those cards needs to be Nebula. You need to have set up your cards on the board to form or have a diagonal battle line ready. If you happen to have the card set up and there's a enemy card blocking you, and you happen to have a action card in your hand that you can use for 1 cost, use that. Or if you have Techno-Organic Virus, the 0 cost card, use that to get rid of the enemy. If it does enough damage to take them out, then you can drop down Nebula, and that will hopefully seal the win for you. If you are having trouble, you may want to try and form 1 battle line first, then use the card, and then use this technique or strategy to use Nebula to knock out the opponent. But generally you should be able to do this with 1 battle line and knock out the opponent leader straight away. Let's have a look at some substitutes just in case you do not have all of these cards. So if you don't happen to have Star-Lord, you could potentially use Rocket Raccoon, but I would prefer to use Star-Lord and swap Nebula Gamora for Rocket. If you don't happen to have, let's see, Nova, don't worry. You could put Drax in there. Drax, as you know, will increase his attack and HP stat by a certain amount. Mine is at level 4, so he's going to be buffing himself by 200 every turn. So he's going to be pretty annoying for the enemy. They probably want to use an action card on him straight away. If you haven't got Drax, drop down Groot. Mine is pretty much enough levels to get him to level 4 actually, as I've been very lucky to get him from Spec Ops randomly when I was doing a bit of farming for Spot. If you saw my glitch video, I got quite a number of him from that. So he's going to be buffing allies when you drop him on the board. Unfortunately, it's only once, and it is again left and right, so not like Anti-Venom, so all nearby allies. So that is not the best, but he has very good HP stat. Look at that HP stat, 1001. So at level 3, 1101, so very good HP stat. So he's going to be pretty annoying for the enemy, so they're going to want to try and take him out. Yondu is pretty good because he is a 1 cost card. He's going to be dealing enough damage to take out those pesky little 0 cost cards your enemy opponent is going to be dropping down. But if you haven't got Rocket, let's say, you could put in this Gamora. She again is going to be giving the buff. They all going to be getting the Guardian buff of 10% per Guardian card on the board. If you're moving her around on the board, she's going to be taking out enemies hopefully, but she does work better in a movement deck. But if you haven't got anything else, she is a card you can use. But as I said, it is good to use action cards that are 0 cost. So if you haven't got this, for example, you could use Techno-Organic Virus, because that will do enough damage, hopefully, to take out an enemy for you. Mine at level 4 will deal 439. At level 5, it will deal 482 damage to an enemy. So use it if you can. If you haven't got it, try and use something else. Or you could use this, get what you pay for. It will deal quite a bit of damage. At level 4, 732 damage for 1 frag. That is very good. So depending on how many frags you have will determine how much damage it's going to be doing. So that is a very good card. I keep clicking on the artwork. I don't mean to do that. That is a very good card to have instead. So let's move on. So I know some of you are thinking this deck is very annoying for you when it comes to arena. You could actually combat the ability of this deck. So stop the opponent leader from getting to 6 frags by utilizing Ant-Man.
Okay.
So Ant-Man basically works by stopping your enemy from getting frags. How that works is basically you need to have 3 frags less than the opponent. When you have less than 3 frags than the opponent, so let's say you have 1 frag, the opponent leader has 4. The opponent leader has 3 frags more than you, so Ant-Man will steal 1 frag from the leader and place it on the board. So using that strategy, you can stop the opponent leader from getting 6 frags that they need to use Vishanti's Omnipotence. So as you can see, you can pretty much use the Ant-Man with any deck, but you have to bear in mind that you're stopping the enemy from getting the frags, so they always have to have 3 frags more than you. So bear that in mind. It won't work if you had 2 frags and they got 4 frags. They must have 3 frags more than you. So if they had 5 frags and you had 2 frags, Ant-Man will steal 1 frag from the enemy. So as I said, you can use him with any cards you want, any type of deck you want, but you just have to bear that in mind, and that will allow you to dictate the game and stop the opponent leader from getting the frags they need to combat them using Vishanti's Omnipotence. As you can see, I'm using all 0 cost Avengers cards here, changing up slightly. You could again use any cards you want. The reason why I'm using these is because they all have the Avengers team synergy buff, and again, every time a card is put on the board with the same team, from the same team, sorry, they are going to be getting that 10% buff every time to HP and attack. Another good card you could potentially use would be, let's say, well, let's go back to the Guardians deck. Where is it? Let's say the Vishanti Omnipotence deck is the Guardians deck. You could actually use Ant-Man here. And you could use, let's see, so you could put in Nova. So the reason why you'd want to use Nova is because Nova, when again he's on the board, he will stop the enemy from forming a battle line. So if they try and use Vishanti's Omnipotence on you, he is going to stop that straight away. If your Ant-Man strategy failed, he is going to stop that for you. So let's have a look at the last deck, Cosmic Explosion. So this is quite an interesting deck because you are going to be utilizing Hela as the leader, because what she does is when a character is knocked out, she is going to drain the leader HP, so that's your own leader HP as well as the opponent leader's HP by 50. So what you want to focus on with this deck is, if you can, you want to try and form a cheeky battle line where possible with your 0 cost cards or potentially your 2 cost cards here. So you could use Beyonder or Malekith. The reason why Malekith is here is because he's going to be dealing damage to an enemy on the board, hopefully knocking them out, and then slowly whittling away at the opponent leader's HP stat. You've got Expert Espionage here, so you want to swap out all the opponent's action cards, buff your own 0 cost cards doing enough damage to the opponent leader. So you want to get the opponent leader's HP down to around 1500, 1300, because you're going to use Cosmic Explosion. What Cosmic Explosion does, Cosmic Explosion will deal damage, I believe it's 150 damage for every cosmic fragment on the board. But before you can use Cosmic Explosion, you want to get the Cosmic Fragments on the board. But before you do that, you need to clear the board. So you need to bring action cards that clear the board for you. So one of them could be Hydra's EMP Explosive, depending on what cards are on the board. If the HP is quite high, unfortunately you cannot use that, or you have to use it in conjunction with another card. Storm Summoning, a card that will clear all enemies from the board. So if their HP is less than 600, or it will leave one action card with HP that is 600 or more, action card, character card on the board. If you don't have this, a better action card will be the legendary card 1 Million Exploding Suns, but more people are likely to have this than the other legendary card. A very good card here, Trial by Fire. The higher the level, the better. Again, it's going to deal this amount of damage, 550 damage to all enemy characters. Actually, sorry, all characters on the battlefield. So that again is a great way to clear all cards from the board. If you don't have that, or you want to use it in conjunction, you could also use USDP, as that's going to deal 202,550. I'm getting confused. 2,057 damage divided equally to all characters or enemy characters on the board. So again, another great way to clear the board. Then after you've cleared the board, you want to drop Beyonder. They're going to drop one card down. That means you still have 10 squares left. You then want to use Cosmic Explosion to deal 1500 damage to the opponent leader, and then hopefully knock them out. And that is pretty much it with this deck. That is how you use it. Cosmic Explosion will focus on using all the cosmic frags on the board to deal damage equal to 150 per frag to the opponent leader directly. When that card first came out in what was it called, Stark Lab, it was seen as if, or Arena 51, it seemed as if it was based on frag mounds. So I tried using it on frag mounds that had 3 or more frags. Sorry, 3 frags, or 2 at least, to try and one-shot the enemy. And unfortunately, it didn't work, so the description of the card was incorrect, and they changed it when the card was officially released to relate to Cosmic Fragment mounds and not Cosmic Fragments. So that is unfortunate, but I guess the card would be a bit too OP if you could literally one-shot the opponent by using that card. But let's talk about some substitutes. If you don't happen to have Beyonder, you could actually use, where is he? If I can see him, I'm looking for, where is he? Here he is, the Collector. So it doesn't really matter if you use the Collector or the Beyonder, because the Collector, after summoning, will create 2 cosmic fragments on all empty slots. The Beyonder, after summoning, create 1 cosmic fragment on all empty slots. It doesn't make any difference to Cosmic Explosion because it's based on fragment mounds and not total number of fragments. So you could use either or, but the reason why I would lean towards the Beyond is because he has better attack stat, but Collector has the better HP stat, but quite low attack stat, to be honest. So that is basically it. There are a number of different cards you can use depending on what deck you want to build. Again, you don't want to focus on picking all your most OP cards because that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best. You have to focus on using cards that work in the deck you want to build. They actually nerfed Xiao Lao slightly, but he is still pretty good. Look at that attack stat, 1,011 at level 4, at level 5, 1,110. So he is a very good substitute, and he is an uncommon card, so you're more likely to have him at level 5 than say Super Giant at level 4. At level 4, damn, 1,300 attack. Very nice. A new card they actually introduced is this guy here. This is basically the new Xiao Lao, except he doesn't have an ability. However, at level 5, his HP stat is at 1,500. So he's basically a meat shield. Although he has lower attack stat than Xiao Lao, he does have much better HP stat, so he is very good actually. I'm definitely focusing on trying to get him to level 5. But yeah, there are a number of different cards you can use based on the situation. But let me know what decks you like to use in the comment section below. Let me know if you like the video. Let me know what you want to see next. And as always, feel free to like, leave a comment, and hopefully subscribe if you want to join me on Discord. The link is in the description, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. But definitely, this is a deck I like to use at the moment, the Avengers deck. but I do like to add in Grid, Black Cat and Man Ape instead of those zero cost Avengers cards. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, this is just really my own opinion. It's quite subjective. This is what I like to use. This is how I like to play the cards. There's no really right or wrong way to build decks. Do build decks in the way that you feel work best for you. But let me know what decks you're running in the comments below, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care guys, bye.